that is very much missed, the effect that the UFO interaction has on people, because we're hidden in a veil, Paul. We're hidden in a veil where the wool has been pulled over our eyes, and we are not conditioned to accept other realities that are around us. We have this terrible, malevolent veil around the world at the moment, and so these men saw a glimpse outside of that. Some say, the British MOD said that it was Orford Lighthouse, I think. There was a few other excuses going on about what it was and what it wasn't. But those men on that evening know what they saw at Rendlesham. The rumour was that it was some sort of engine problem that the UFO had, and it had landed on the ground, and etc., etc. Oddly enough, the other human factor occurs with the Berwyn Mountains incident, where I was at a conference giving a talk about the Berwyn Mountains UFO incident in Wales, and we had to shut the cameras off because a lady stepped forward. She didn't want to go public with this because she did not trust UFO researchers. UFO researchers were going into the village of Corwin, or whereabouts it happened, and they were pestering people, running off with exclusive rights to the media and all that kind of thing, and this lady had clearly had enough of all that. So we turned the cameras off, and she came out with this extraordinary story that is not published about the Berwyn Mountains UFO incident in Wales, about the fact that a number of children were suffering laser burns from the UFO incident that happened there and had to be taken to hospital. And she and 3 other people were once again traumatised, looking for questions, and were not getting answers. And this comes across continually with incidents at Rendlesham, with incidents at the Berwyn Mountains, for the US audience, the former Marines and military people that email me from the US trying to find answers. And sometimes they'll go, Tony, can you explain this? And the answer is no, I can't. I had an incident this morning, Paul, before I got up, whereby once again I was attacked by mind-invasive technology. I can't explain why. I know that it's invasive. I know that it was telling me to shut up. I know that it's bullying. I know that they want this kept quiet because there's a shift, a paradigm shift across our world at the moment where the reality is changing, and they don't want that to happen. So there's some very big human factors involved in UFO incidents, including Rendlesham. Those poor men, they're still searching for answers, and they're still frustrated with their officers who they believe were bought or told to keep quiet, and they believe that their superior officers lied to them regarding the Rendlesham incident.
Now, we had David Icke on yesterday, Tony, and again he was getting into the theory that this evil, as you said, is so malevolent, so over the top, that he believes there's a non-human presence behind it once you go to the end of the line, and he's talking about, shapeshifters and all this kind of stuff, which I personally don't believe. I believe that evil is at the core of this New World Order agenda. I haven't seen any solid evidence to say that it's, off-planet aliens or interdimensional shapeshifters are responsible for it, apart from hearsay. I mean, I've read David's books, and he presents personal accounts of people that have apparently seen these individuals. I don't classify that as evidence. I classify it as hearsay. But, I mean, it's still open to debate. I mean, what do you think about this premise that these shapeshifters are controlling events from behind the scenes?
Well, it's hard to nail it down. We have got something that is controlling events behind the scenes, and a number of UFO researchers have concluded, and even Alex Jones on this show, I think, has concluded this, that there is a non-human intelligence behind the scenes that is driving all this. It's surprisingly enough, the remote viewer, for the US listeners now, the US military's remote viewer 001, Joseph McMonigle, who entered into the psychic spying program of the United States, had an incident with what he believed to be a reptilian in his living room, and he was awarded medals and so on and so forth. Now, these remote viewing programs were started in 1970, Paul, because the Soviets were making very big progress in psychic warfare. But if we rewind back to 1950 and 1949, the American intelligence and military was scratching its head, wondering why their planes were being shot out of the sky by UFOs, and it's documented. And they weren't just being shot out of the sky at tiny levels. There was things being blasted out of the sky left, right and centre by these UFOs. And at the time they were sending up F-94 Starfire fighters who were launching salvos of 12 missiles at a time and bringing them down. Now, back to what you're talking about. They therefore wondered what the cause was of these UFOs suddenly appearing en masse in their airspace. Could it be high-powered radar? They weren't sure. And so before the remote viewing programs of 1970 and psychic spotting, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the FBI and the US Army formed something called the Collins Elite, which is like I'd class it as a psychic equivalent of Majestic 12, really, to find out what was going on. Their conclusion, and it's something I've concluded before I read this information, their conclusion was that the occult ritual occult goings-on had caused dimensional portals to open, and we were being invaded by something unknown, and they termed that unknown as non-human entity, or NHE, not alien. There's a difference between peaceful alien interaction and something that is malevolent and non-human entity. And I would call it demonic, Paul. I'd call it demonic. They called it demonic as well. And they concluded, to their horror, which I don't concur to, but the Collins Elite concluded to their horror that there was a possibility that human souls were being abducted. But they definitely had collared and observed something that was extremely malevolent. And the thing is, you get these, like Bohemian Grove, what Alex has covered, what you've covered on your website to do with Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, all that kind of thing. The extreme malevolence of manifestation that these actions are causing is putting humanity in a very dangerous place and a very dangerous position. So I cannot tell whether non-human entities or reptilians, I'm not too sure, but what we can conclude is that there's something very malevolent and very evil and very non-human behind all this. The chaos that we see today in the banking system isn't caused by error. It's not done by error. Libya and all these other conflicts that we see is not caused by the folly of politicians. It's caused by a driven engine and a driven agenda. Would you not agree?
Well, certainly. I mean, the level... It's people can't acknowledge the level of evil because they think to themselves, well, I would never do that, and nobody I know would ever go to that level of monstrosity. So that's why people...
Yes, you're right, Paul. And the thing is, yes, indeed,
not to believe it.
Yeah, and the thing is, as David Icke has rightly said, as he once said, you'd read the headlines and think, they wouldn't do that. They couldn't do that. They bloody do. They really do. And I've seen it kind of like with what's happened to me, what they're capable of and what they can do and what they are doing. As Brian Gerrish has rightly said, there is an issue to do with, children, sacrifice, all that kind of thing. There is an issue about that. And it's certainly true here in the UK that the Metropolitan Police certainly know where the skeletons are buried on issues like that. But I digress, Paul. We'll stick to UFOs. But you know where I'm coming from.
My producer's interested in this High Brazil mythical island, supposedly off the coast of the country of Ireland, and its connection to UFOs. Have you heard about this one, High Brazil?
No, I haven't, Paul. No. Tell more. No, it's something I've not heard of. But Ireland does have a very high rate of UFOs, and Ireland, the Irish government, is known for being very secretive about the UFO situation because, of course, Ireland has a great mystery about it, doesn't it? So I'm sure you listener, do you know about it? Because I certainly don't on that one. High Brazil is something I've not heard of.
It's a new one on me, but the producer's very interested, so maybe you could research that.
I will.
Underground bases, USOs, I believe they're called, unidentified submergible objects.
Yes.
What's going on underneath the ground, Tony?
Well, I certainly believe that the UFO I filmed in 1999, which illuminates a TV antenna, which you can see on my website, TonyOpsUFO.com. TonyOpsUFO on YouTube. You have a look at that, you'll see it illuminate a TV antenna, and I strongly believe that UFO that I filmed was not from another planet as such. It had not come all the way from another planet. It had come from an undersea base from somewhere. We know here in the UK, off the coast of Wales and off the coast there of Liverpool and Southport, there have been major incidents of flying triangles, flying out at rates of knots over the sea, and the situation occurring where jets and so on have chased after them. I know of a lad I used to work with who worked in the Navy in submarines in sonar. and he was telling me when he was on duty on sonar, he was tracking stuff on his sonar system at speeds that Russia and America did not have. These things were travelling at speeds Russia and America did not have, and he had to just class it. His officer said, "You must, class that as dolphins, whales, anything other than mysterious phenomena." And so there's been various goings on with underwater bases out there in the oceans, including incidents, the major incidents which you might be familiar, Paul, with. I don't know whether the listeners are. The incident in the Atlantic near Norway, where it is rumoured that a United States naval ship actually vanished when a triangle craft came over it, that it actually vanished. Actually, that ship did sink, and no explanation has been given to the families as to what really happened. But there was a task force sent by NATO to that area of the Atlantic, I think in Norway, near Norway, because underwater UFOs were tagging the nets of the fishing vessels and causing general mayhem. And the US Navy turned up on the scene and put an exclusion zone in place, and the consequences of that, as I understand it, was a ship disappeared. So you're dealing with something that is certainly very mysterious in terms of underwater bases. Christopher Columbus, he recorded that when he was touring to America, when he was sailing to America, he actually saw an underwater UFO appear and fly off at speed from him. So the oceans of our planet are definitely populated with them, and I think that we have got intelligences out there that are non-human intelligence, that are peaceful and occupy our planet's ocean as a matter of course and have been for centuries.
Let me just fire a few more at you. You talked about disappearing ships. Philadelphia experiment. I'm sure you've heard of that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hoax or not?
I think that was a hoax. If you, interestingly enough, and this may sound odd, if anybody wants to look at the answers for things, look at what the Russians are saying about some of these issues. They're very revealing. Some of the Russian military guys and the KGB guys, they seem to know the score on a lot of things, mysteriously enough. I think that was a hoax on that one.
Bob Lazar claimed to have back-engineered UFOs at Nevada 51 back in the late 80s, then came out very publicly afterwards with his story. Bob Lazar, hoax or not a hoax?
I'm in two minds about that one, Paul. I'm in two minds about that one. Bob Lazar, yeah, I'm in two minds. I don't know what to believe on that issue. A bit like yourself with the reptilians. I don't know what to believe on that one. I don't.
How about, I think Sir Peter Horsley, was it? He was a pretty prominent British officer who claimed to have met an alien.
Yeah, indeed. Now, I strongly believe in that one. And there has been incidents occur, bizarre incidents occur, where people who... NATO did a research thing, Paul, called the assessment, so it is said. This was said by Master Sergeant Robert Dean. But basically, the gist of the report was about UFOs because they were they nearly triggered World War III on a number of occasions. But the thing is, what was happening there was the NATO said that you had aliens that looked like us, exactly like us. You could walk past one down the street and you would never know, was the famous quote. You would literally never know. And so Peter Horsley was sat with somebody who knew about Britain's nuclear programme backwards way on, and knew a lot of other things as well. He was a man called Janus, although I was misquoted on the UK radio station TalkSport, and they thought I said the word Janice. And then that all went off into this humongous black comedy of, oh, did he see a cleaner? Was he knocking off Janet? It was quite hilarious. The clips on my YouTube site with George Galloway, it was very funny. But George Galloway, yeah, oh, you've heard it, have you, Paul? Right, yeah, it's very funny. But yeah, so and Peter Horsley had an incident with the brakes on his car. He nearly crashed his car. His brakes had been tampered with. So I'm one for believing that happened.
Okay, we're running out of time, but